Why do buyers need us? Let's think about that for a little while. With the wealth of information on the websites, some buyers narrow their choices before they even come to us. And they will say, I want to see these 3 houses, or I want to see these 4 houses, and many times they buy one. But they really need our expertise. And we're finding more and more that there are reasons why they need us and they come to us. They need us for community and market information. Who better to tell them all about the community and the market information than you? You are an experienced professional and you know about the areas. They need access to the entire market. Think about it. They might have picked out 4 houses that they want to see with 4 different real estate companies. And if they are going to be calling each of those real estate companies, you see how that can be a real inconvenience. So we as realtors will have access to the whole market, and we would be able to show them all of these houses through our multiple listing service, and have them to have access to the entire market that you're in. They don't have to go around to different people. And now, more than ever, buyers want to save time as well as saving money, and they want to work in a very efficient way. That's one reason we're seeing more and more buyers that are going to the different websites, and they're selecting houses they want to see, and then they are buying one of those that they have selected many times. Like I said, it might be 2 houses, it might be 3, it might be 4. But that is so much better for them because it saves them time. But think about how much better it is for you that they have access to all of the wealth of information on the website. They need you for preparing the offer. Writing the offer to protect these buyers is very, very important. Now, remember here that RECAD does matter. How we write the offer depends on whether they're our client or if they are our customer. Are we representing them, or are we a transaction broker? So that is very important for us to know. Now, there is a certain amount that you would have to do in order to protect the buyer, even as a transaction broker. We're certainly going to ask them to get a home inspection. We're certainly going to make sure that they have a walkthrough, and that there are protective clauses that they're telling us that they have bringing 3 horses from Florida, and that when we find acreage for them, that they would be able to go ahead and have those horses on that particular acreage. So we would have to have protective clauses like that. But we're really going ahead when we're working with them as a customer and applying those things that they have told us. If they suggest writing an offer of $295,000 on a $350,000 house, are we going to advise them otherwise? No. As a customer, the only thing that we could say, we cannot give you any encouragement that this offer is going to be accepted, but we'll write up what you tell us. So no advice. We're not advocating for them when they are our customer and we're a transaction broker. But it's going to be just the opposite if we are dealing with them as a client. We are going to take that same example that I said, the $295,000 offer that a buyer client wants to make on that $350,000 house. Then I'm going to be negotiating with this buyer client to tell them all the reasons that they shouldn't be making that lower offer, because we have pulled competitive market analysis. We know what prices the houses are selling in the neighborhood for. We know that this house is close to the right price at $350,000, and the buyers could be alienating these sellers by making such a low offer. We are advising them and trying to get them to make a better offer based on the knowledge that we have been able to gain about the property and based on the knowledge that we have about the sellers. So my advice, my advocating for these buyers, it can only come into play when I am a buyer's agent. The buyers really need us for negotiating the lowest price and the best terms. Now, we can do this if they are our client, but we cannot do that as a customer and transaction brokerage relationship that we have there. So think about that. Now, another thing that the buyers need us for, they need us to verify the value, assisting the buyer with the competitive market analysis. And think about what you can do now, as we've already talked about. You can pull a competitive market analysis when they are your customer. But when we are a buyer's agent, we're going to go a little further, and we're going to interpret the competitive market analysis. Protective clauses in offers to purchase. Yes, we definitely need those protective clauses regardless of the client or customer relationship there. Think about best financing. They need us for that. And providing updated data to them on best financing. Explaining the mortgage process, because the mortgage process can even be different one city to the other. Now, so many of them are going through the different companies that are available on different websites now and securing their financing through one of those companies. But explaining to them that it's very important for them to search out different factors to compare with whatever is available locally is so important, because they may be getting a lower interest rate, but the closing cost may be much more. And we need to help them think through the whole thing when they are our client, explaining the different types of mortgages and the pitfalls of some mortgages that we have seen that has brought around about a lot of foreclosures. We need to be sure that we are able to explain all of this to them and put them with a mortgage person who can explain it to them if we feel that we are not able to explain it thoroughly. Now, does that mean that they're locked into that mortgage person? Certainly not. But they are free to choose whoever they want to go to get their mortgage. But we need to give them a lot of information and a lot of questions that they need to ask when they're talking to a mortgage person. Another reason they need us is for verification of the property conditions. Well, now, are we an inspector? Certainly not. And we do not need to do anything to give them the perception that we are an inspector. But what we're going to do is to give them good advice, making sure that they know that they have to go ahead and satisfy themselves up front before closing because of the caveat emptor status that we have in the state of Alabama. It's very important for them to have their professional property inspector to come and inspect that property. Other inspections that they might need to be aware of, and making sure that they know that they're very free to get these inspections and should get these inspections in some cases. But septic tanks, is it in a rural area? Is it on well? Is that well water good to drink? Maybe that's something they need to get inspected. What about a termite inspection? Contract, letter. They need to know the difference between these. Just because they had a termite inspection and found that there was no active infestation of termites in the house right now, does that mean that they have a contract that would protect them in the event that termites do come into the house later on? We need to let them know the difference and then advise them when they are our buyer client. But at least go ahead and make them fully aware of it, even if they're our buyer customer. Lead-based paint. If a house is built before 1978, as you all know, then we must go ahead and make sure that these people are aware that they have the opportunity and the right to go ahead and have a lead-based paint inspection if they so desire. and that would be their choice. Mold. Does the property need to be inspected for mold? Well, in some cases, this is very important. If people have a lot of allergies, they must go ahead and make sure that they have their inspection. So these are not all of the inspections that they need to be made aware of, but we just might talk this through with them and let them know that there are a lot of different types of inspections that they can have, and we need to make sure that they are aware that it's up to them. And we can point them to different websites and give them a lot of information that they can check out each one of them if you would like to do that, Mr. and Mrs. Bauer. They need to have us to help them to verify that the zoning is adequate. The important thing here is to be the source of the source. Give them the different people that they need to be in touch with to be sure that the zoning is proper. Because you might be selling them a piece of property that has 5 acres in one of the most elite cities of Alabama. And a person coming from out of state might think, well, sure, I can keep those horses on these 5 acres. But can they? Zoning will not allow it in many, many locations. So making sure and helping them to verify that adequate zoning is one of the reasons that the buyers need us. Verification of accessibility. Is this a shared driveway? Think about that. Or is it a driveway that is going to the property that is not yours at all, but it would belong to someone else? Is it a dedicated right-of-way to the property? And I'm sure that you can think about a lot of other examples of accessibility. Is it landlocked land? It could be. Now, it could be that, and in most all cases, you would be able to get access to the property, but you might pay a dear price for going across someone else's property to get to this landlocked property. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration. And it is so important for you to be able to address all of these different things. Now, survey is another one. Think of reasons for recommending a new survey even when the mortgage lender will accept a copy of the old survey. Let's think about your contract form. Now, many of your contract forms do state that the buyers do want a survey, a new survey, or they do not. And in many, many cases, when you are asking the buyers if they will want a survey, they'll think about the money that it's going to cost. And they'll say, no, I don't want a survey. I saw a copy of a survey on the table in there when we looked at the house. That should be good enough for me. But one of the best advice, pieces of advice that you can give to them, get a new survey. If you think about this, getting a new survey is going to reveal what the property is today. Let me give you an example. There was one house that was sold, and this buyer said, no, I don't want to pay the price for a new survey. I'll accept a copy of the old survey that these sellers can furnish me. The mortgage company was in agreement, and they said, that's fine with us. What happened was that this buyer, after he had closed out, went out and moved into the house, and he went out in the yard and he started digging post holes because he was going to put up a fence. And the neighbor next door came out and she said, John, you're going to be putting that fence over on my property. I don't think that you should do that. And John said, no, here's the copy of the survey that these sellers gave to me. Don't you see how it goes back in a point here on the back of the lot? The next door neighbor said, oh, but John, that was before they sold us the triangle off the back of the lot there. So those sellers had sold a part of that lot, and somehow the other, it did not even show up in the property description, or it was not caught. And the first that this seller, that this buyer knew about it was when he started to put up his fence. And he found out right then that he didn't own as much property as he thought that he'd owned. Now, had he gotten a new survey, he would have discovered that up front. And it's so important for us to recommend a new survey. Now, let's take it a step further. You recommend a survey, and if your forms, your contract forms, do state that they will be getting a survey, and then these buyers go to the mortgage company and make their application for the new mortgage, and the mortgage company says, oh, you don't need to have a new survey. We'll accept a copy of a survey that the sellers had made 5 years ago. Then the buyers think, oh, that's a way I can save some money. And even though you have given them good advice on getting a survey, they think, oh, I can save some money. So they, in turn, will go ahead and say, I don't believe I will get a new survey. And guess what? Your contract states that they're going to get a new survey, but they have decided not to get one. So when you go to the closing, there is no new survey. Now, suppose there is a problem later on. Remember, we talked about risk that we take a little bit earlier in our session today? Well, let's make sure that if they have decided not to get a new survey, that we do go ahead and just type an addendum that says the buyers have decided that they will accept a copy of the survey furnished to them by the sellers, and that they will not get a new survey. Get the buyers and get the sellers to sign that, so that you will have a paper trail. You'll have that in your file, and then if a problem comes up later on, then you will be able to go back to your file and find, yes, the buyers changed their mind. They decided that they did not want to get a survey, even after you as the buyer's agent asked them to get a survey. It's very, very important for you to advise them to get a new survey. Now, some buyers also want us to analyze what is going to be the future saleability. That's something that we have to be very careful about. Thinking about knowing that there is not a sure thing, there is no way that we can tell them what the future saleability is going to be. How much is this property going to increase in value in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? We cannot go ahead and guess at that at all. All that we can do is to show them a competitive market analysis and what has happened over a period of time. We can go back like a prospectus in the stock market is. We can go back for 5 years. We can go back for 10 years. We can go back for 1 year and show them what has happened. We cannot guarantee them what will happen. We can only show them what has happened, and then they have to make their decision based on the information that we're able to furnish to them, with no guarantee of the future sellability. Buyers need us to manage the closing process. They want us to handle all that the information that has to come about between the contract and the closing. And if you think about it, we need to advise them every step of the way on what is happening from the time that they have their contract to they go to the closing table. We need to communicate the details. Staying in touch with them is so important. Sometimes I'm making a telephone call to them to say, no new news, I just wanted to stay in touch and let you know that I have checked with the mortgage company this morning, I've checked with the attorney, you can tell them whatever you've been doing, and just stay in touch with them and let them know what to expect. Follow up with them often, because many times buyers feel that they are neglected after they have a contract and that they don't hear from the agent anymore until the time to set up a closing. So let's not be that person that does not stay in touch. Let's follow up. And the consistency of our follow-up, put it on your calendar. Follow up once a week, or whatever time that you have told them that you will follow up. Be sure that we follow up with them.